What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the Yeti Express DFS podcast presented to you by Draft Dashboard. Remember, you can try out all the tools that I use in this video 30 days for $1 by clicking my link in the description below. Gets you access to the NFL, the NBA, and the NHL currently. The MLB is now over. Congratulations to the Washington Nationals on winning their first World Series. It was quite the World Series where no home team won a single game, something you don't see every day. We're going to get into my picks for Week 9. Before we do that, click the thumbs up button. If you're new to the channel, welcome. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of our new videos. We're going to get into the position optimizer here in just 1 second, but before we do, we're going to get into the cheat sheet. Cheat sheet shows you ownership, shows you value plays, studs, and this comes out every day for every sport. Really good stuff here. Gives you ownership as well. If you're looking for someone to give you ownership, we do. Really good stuff here. Position optimizer. First up at quarterback, I have Russell Wilson against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Buccaneers are really bad against the pass. Fairly decent against the run, though. Russell Wilson's most expensive quarterback at $7,100. DraftKings has really priced up their quarterbacks as of late, so they're making you find value elsewhere. Not really available at the quarterback position. 17% projected ownership. Tampa Bay 25th against quarterbacks, 26th overall team defense. Next up, I have Aaron Rodgers at low ownership against the LA Chargers. I still like to call them the LA Clippers, but that's for another day. Rodgers, last two games, 46.8 and 30.1. Only 3% projected ownership with a almost 21 projection. Chargers are really good against the pass with Casey Hayward and a decent D-line with Bosa rushing in. But Rodgers has just been really, really good. And it pains me to say that because I'm a Vikings fan, but this dude is really good. And if you can get him at low ownership, you might as well do it. One play I want to talk about is Matt Stafford. I'm not really getting to him. I didn't include him in my watch players tab just because his ceiling is really only like 28. He doesn't run the ball at all. And he's got a hefty price tag against him too. It's a good matchup. I might target his receivers, but as a quarterback, I don't really want Matt Stafford. Next up, I have Jameis Winston. Weeks in a row now, I keep telling everybody how bad Seattle's defense is. It is not good. They are the Chiefs of the NFC. They can score with anybody, but they can give it up as well. Jameis Winston's probably my favorite quarterback again this week. I know I've mentioned him a few times this year, but this is a really good matchup at low ownership, 6%. They rank 20th against quarterbacks and 16th overall team defense. Their defense is not good, so I think I'm going to fire up a lot of Jameis Winston this week. Running backs, at the top, I like the studs. Christian McCaffrey against Tennessee. I've been avoiding him too much this year. It's not a good matchup again. It's a $10K price tag, but he just does everything. He's so good. I'll have some of them. I don't want a ton of them, but I'll have some. $10,000 price tag against Tennessee, who ranks 8th against running backs and 9th overall team defense. Running back I do want is Dalvin Cook. He's priced up for this matchup, but the Chiefs can't stop the run. They're giving up like over 5.5 yards a carry. The Vikings are going to run the ball in this game. Chiefs can't stop anyone. I just talked about that. 20th overall team defense, 29th against running backs. Dalvin Cook is in a smash spot here. Priced up a little bit, but really good spot for him. I'm willing to pay the price increase. 15% projected ownership. Next up, I have Le'Veon Bell. I've been chasing Le'Veon Bell almost all year. I'm going to continue to do it until it pays off. 18% projected ownership. Miami dead last against the run, dead last overall defense. I think Le'Veon Bell could have a breakout game. They just want this game to get over as fast as possible. Both teams do. Miami wants their loss so that they can get the number 1 overall pick. So I think you're just going to see a lot of runs. Sam Darnold does not look good. So I'm going to include Le'Veon Bell. Next up is Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb against the Denver Broncos. 27% projected ownership. The Denver Broncos rank 15th against the run, 4th overall team defense. So I have some interest in Chubb. Pretty consistent here. He's had some really good games, and he's had some okay games, 15, 17, 32, 42. I want some Nick Chubb this week. Next up is a guy that is injured, but I expect him to play. He left the, Sunday night game and then came back, or it might have been Monday night. Yeah, Monday night game and came back. Aaron Jones against the Chargers. Chargers 26th against the run, 10th overall team defense. And this dude's put up some monster scores. It's a good matchup, 7K price tag. I expect to get a lot of Aaron Jones, assuming that he's healthy. Next up, I have James Conner, 8% projected ownership. Another guy we'll have to watch for injury news. But it sounds like he might actually play this game. I went and picked up Jalen Samuels in my season-long league, assuming that he was probably going to be out. But they think he might play this week. 8% projected ownership with a 15.2 projection. He's got a hefty price tag. I'll include him, but I don't expect to get a ton of him. And nothing really down in the dumpster for running backs. Wide receivers is where our list gets a little longer. And as it should, there are 3 on each team for the most part. First up, Kenny Golladay. This guy is kind of disappeared and been really good at the same time. So kind of a boomer bust play, which is bizarre because he's the favorite receiver on Detroit. 7% projected ownership, 7,700. He's really priced up. I might get a little bit of him, not a ton. The guy I do want, though, is Tyler Lockett going up against Tampa Bay. 15% projected ownership, 26 against the pass, 26 team overall defense for Tampa Bay. He's priced up as well, 7,500, 17.3 projection. I want some of him. I included both of the Tampa Bay wide receivers. Chris Godwin, 19% projected ownership against Seattle. I mentioned Seattle's defense is not that good. I know that they rank 8th against wide receivers, but their defense is really not good. I expect Jameis to get to his wide receivers quite a bit this week. Next up, I have Mike Evans. As you can see, 18% projected ownership. So the industry agrees with what I'm saying. Seattle's defense just isn't good. This game's going to be a shootout. I want both of the wide receivers that Winston's going to throw to. Next, I have Marvin Jones. Marvin Jones going against Oakland. Only 5% projected ownership. Priced up a little bit more again this week. When Golladay doesn't go off, Marvin Jones does. So I usually just include both of them in my player pool if they're in a good matchup. So I hope to get the one that goes off, I guess. You got to remember, I run 100 lineups into the mini-max. So this is how I play it. I put players that I like in my Watch Players tab, and then I use the mass lineup generator. Next up, I have DK Metcalf going up against Tampa Bay. Metcalf hasn't really had a big-time receiving game. He's priced up for this matchup. Not a whole lot to say here, other than the fact that he's just a guy to include. I don't expect him to get you more than 30, and I don't expect you to get less than 10. He's just a guy that's going to make your lineups fit at the end when you have 5,700 at wide receiver. Next, I have Jamison Crowder, 3% projected ownership. This guy has quite a bit of speed, plays in the slot. Targets are there some weeks and not others. Going up against Miami 27th against the pass. They traded all their good players away. They just acquired Akeem Talib. I don't know if they're going to play him or if they're just picking him up to salary dump him. I haven't really read into that a whole lot, but 27th against the pass, 32nd team defense overall, 5,300 for Jamison Crowder is a good play. Devontae Parker in the same game. Look, Parker's been pretty good since becoming healthy. 17, 11, 16.5, 11.9, 25th team defense, 3% projected ownership. And then down below, Tyreek Hill, 5% projected ownership. Vikings ranked 20th against wide receivers. Xavier Rhodes can't cover him. I don't think that Trey Waynes can cover him. So I have interest in Tyreek Hill. Just too much speed for my Minnesota Vikings this week. Mahomes might be back as well. We'll have to wait and see, but he might be. Then I have Stephon Diggs. The Kansas City Chiefs somehow have a defensive rank of 7th against wide receivers, but Diggs, since publicly speaking out and not being happy, has put up 46, 24, and 23. He's priced up, though, $7,600. I'll have some of him, not a ton. Same with Thielen. Thielen, since Diggs has spoken out, has not done much. Missed a game and then caught a touchdown in one game and then had a couple catches in another game. But the Chiefs don't defend anybody, so I'll have interest in both wide receivers. Odell Beckham, I have him in 2 out of my 3 season-long leagues, and he has been absolute trash. It's gotten to a point now where I want to be in on the game. Him and Le'Veon Bell are the guys that I want to be in on when they go off. This is a pretty good spot against Denver. Denver does rank 3rd defensively against wide receivers, but I do think that Beckham can get some burnage in this game against Harris, even though Harris is pretty good. Last guy I have is Juju Smith-Schuster. Finally got into the end zone, finally had a good game. It did come against Miami. Going up against Indy in a dome this week, I think that's a pretty good spot for Juju. That's it for the wide receivers. Tight ends, I don't have a ton of tight ends that I want to talk about, but number 1, Darren Waller, 19% projected ownership in a good matchup against Detroit. Detroit's 22nd against tight ends and 28th in overall team defense. 14.5 projection, he grades out really well. I will have some Darren Waller. Eric Ebron, 2% projected ownership. Jack Doyle is hurt. Steelers historically have struggled against tight ends. So if you get a guy like this at 3,600 with 2% projected ownership going against a team with the 25th ranked defense against tight ends, I think it's worth taking a shot at. Next up, I have Zach Ertz. He's just gotten too fucking cheap. He has been absolute horrible trash this season. Him, Le'Veon Bell, and Odell Beckham have been probably the 3 worst season-long players that were drafted high outside of Antonio Clown. 24% projected ownership. He was my take-a-chance guy last week. It didn't work out, but going against Chicago, they're going to need a big body against that good defense. Zach Ertz has got to come out this week. They're 18th against tight ends, but he will be owned. 24% projection for ownership. He's just gotten too cheap. Jimmy Graham, I've included Jimmy Graham pretty much every week that Devontae Adams has been out. It hasn't really worked out all that well. We had one week where he got him for $4K and he would put up 16.5. That paid us off pretty good on our investment in Graham. I had a lot of him that week. But Graham, 3% projected ownership, 4,300. If Devontae Adams is in, then I'll probably pull Graham out of my player pool, but for now, I'll leave him in. Last guy I want to talk about is Jonah Smith. He had a breakout game last week. That kind of depends on whether or not Delaney Walker plays, but just another guy to keep an eye on. Defenses, I'm not going to talk a lot about defenses. Obviously, my defensive player pool changes from week to week. But with defenses, you don't have to look for anything special. Look for low totals, teams at home, teams that are going up in a good matchup with bad lines, like whoever's playing the Browns this week was at Tennessee, I think. Or no, Denver. Denver's in a good spot because they're going to get sacks. You can look at projections, but the best projected defense right now looks like the Jets at 8.4, and the worst projected defense I'm seeing a 5, the Bucks. So, it's really not that much difference of a points, but nailing your defense is important. So I usually keep a pretty good player pool for defenses, usually upwards of 10. We'll get into the lineup optimizer, make a lineup on FanDuel and on DraftKings. DraftKings, I definitely want Mike Evans to correlate with Jameis Winston. I like that. We can spend down from Waller. Let's just put Ertz here. I think I'd rather get to a guy like Juju Smith-Schuster in the flex. Broncos defense, that's the defense I just mentioned. So that leaves us to cut 1,000. I think I'd rather get to Aaron Jones and Le'Veon Bell. I think Marvin Jones might be priced up a little bit too much. Get to a guy like DK Metcalf. Something like this on DraftKings. Jameis Winston, Aaron Jones, Derrick Henry, Mike Evans, Devontae Parker, DK Metcalf, Zach Ertz, Juju Smith-Schuster, Broncos defense. Something like that might work out pretty good. I know I really wanted to get some Dalvin Cook in here. But if you want to pay up there, you're going to have to pay down at wide receiver. And it's just kind of a week where it's hard to really pay down anywhere, especially at wide receiver. There's a lot of good players and good matchups. But if you wanted to pay up for a running back, you'd have to go down the line and do something like this. Do like a David Montgomery. Get the Eagles defense. That could almost get you to McCaffrey if you wanted to. Just a couple ways to build it. You do something like that. But your receivers really get thinned out if you're paying up at running back, so just be aware of that. I like to go for my lineup that I originally had out, so if you need to rewind the video and see it, do that. I know some people skip to the end of videos. So FanDuel. I think on FanDuel, I want Le'Veon Bell, and I want, let's go with McCaffrey over here. Let's spend up and grab two good running backs. What's Metcalf at over here? 67. I think I'd like to get to Odell over here. He just seems really underpriced. Devontae Parker. I don't play on FanDuel a whole lot, so just beware of that when I'm talking about this stuff. Let's get Ertz over here. I don't think we really need to get to Russ. It's a good matchup, but I'd rather go to Jameis. Evans and Godwin are both really expensive over here, though, so maybe we won't go Jameis over here. Maybe we'll have to go a guy like Phillip Rivers. And then maybe a guy like Keenan Allen. There's Keenan Allen, so we got to cut 2K. I think we can get Tyreek Hill out of here. Marvin Jones. Something like this on FanDuel. Phillip Rivers, Le'Veon Bell, Christian McCaffrey, Keenan Allen, Odell Beckham, Devontae Parker, Zach Ertz, Marvin Jones Jr., in the Broncos defense. I usually like playing three running backs on FanDuel just because it's more touchdown dependent. But I don't really like any of the value running backs as of right now. I have to wait for some more news. But just a quick look at what I'm looking at. You could play the the Waltons or the Ballages or the Carsons or the Johnsons, but that's kind of too much committee stuff for me, so I think I'd leave it like this. Anyways, thanks for stopping by, guys. Good luck this week, and as we like to end the podcast, we say deuces.